You may feel dissatisfied when you discover that Luther Vandross, a music legend in the R&B world, deliberately hid many secrets from his fans even though he passed away nearly 2 decades ago. Like many famous artists, Luther was very cautious about his public appearance, and this left many of his admirers completely unaware of the darker side of his personal and professional life. So there is no reason for you to miss this video because we are going to reveal all the secrets of Luther Vandross in his life. Hold your breath to listen to these. When it comes to Luther's secrets, the issue of his sexuality has never been free of controversy. Indeed, the question of Vandross's sexuality was a topic of whispered discussions within the entertainment industry for years. While many speculated, few dared to speak openly about it. This veil of secrecy persisted until well after his passing, when longtime friend and legendary singer Patti LaBelle confirmed what many had long suspected. Gene Davis, a television producer who worked closely with Vandross, once remarked that everybody in the business knew that Luther Vandross was gay. Despite this, Vandross himself never publicly acknowledged his sexuality. Davis poignantly added, "My friend Luther wasn't," highlighting the deep divide between the star's private and public personas. This dichotomy was not uncommon, especially in an era when being openly gay could have had significant career repercussions, particularly for an artist like Vandross, whose music was beloved by a broad audience, including a substantial female fan base. The question of Vandross's sexuality lingered even after his untimely death in 2005. It wasn't until 12 years later, in a 2017 interview on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, that the rumors were conclusively addressed. Patti LaBelle, who had been a close friend of Vandross for many years, provided the definitive confirmation. During the interview, Cohen, who is openly gay and often explores LGBTQ+ topics on his show, asked LaBelle if Vandross had ever struggled with the idea of coming out publicly. LaBelle, with characteristic grace and honesty, revealed the internal conflict that Vandross had faced. "Yeah, we talked about it," LaBelle said, acknowledging the many conversations they had shared on the topic. She explained that Vandross's primary concern was his mother. He feared that coming out publicly would upset her, even though she might have already known the truth. "But he wasn't going to come out and say this to the world," LaBelle added, underscoring the emotional burden Vandross carried. In her words, "One can sense the weight of societal expectations and personal obligations that Vandross must have felt, a burden that many LGBTQ+ individuals, particularly those in the public eye, can relate to." LaBelle further elaborated that Vandross was also deeply concerned about his fans, particularly his female fans. "He had a lot of lady fans, and he told me that he just didn't want to upset the world," she said. This statement tells of the era in which Vandross rose to fame. The 1980s and 1990s, though progressive in some ways, were still times when the public might not have been as accepting of an openly gay male soul singer. Vandross's music, often about love and relationships, resonated deeply with women who might have viewed him as a romantic figure. To reveal his true self could have risked alienating a significant portion of his audience, something Vandross was evidently unwilling to do. The notion that Vandross chose to remain closeted out of concern for his fans and family adds a layer of tragedy to his story. It suggests that, despite his immense success and the adoration of millions, he may have felt that the world was not ready to fully accept him as he was. This fear of rejection, or of disappointing those he loved and who loved him, likely contributed to his decision to keep his sexuality private. Reportedly, Mary Ida Vandross, Luther's mother, who was perhaps the one person Vandross was most concerned about, had passed away in 2008, 9 years before the interview. Her death meant that she was not around to witness this public revelation. Yet, the fact that Vandross's sexuality was discussed posthumously left some fans and critics uneasy. They questioned whether it was LaBelle's place to out Vandross even after his death. The discomfort stemmed not just from the revelation itself, but from the broader implications of discussing someone else's private life without their explicit consent, especially when that person is no longer alive to respond. Luther Vandross was born in 1951, a time when being gay, especially as a black man, was fraught with challenges. The mid-20th century was a period marked by intense societal pressure to conform to heteronormative standards, and the consequences of deviating from these norms could be severe, ranging from social ostracization to physical violence. For LGBTQ+ individuals, the stakes were even higher, and the intersection of race added another layer of complexity. Vandross came of age in an era when the civil rights movement was gaining momentum, and issues of racial identity were at the forefront of public discourse. However, discussions around sexual orientation, particularly within the black community, were still largely taboo. As a black man, Vandross would have faced significant challenges in navigating his identity, both personally and professionally. The R&B world, deeply intertwined with the African American church and broader black cultural experiences, was not known for its acceptance of LGBTQ+ individuals. The community's deep-rooted ties to Christianity often came with a conservative stance on sexuality, and the notion of a gay black man in the public eye was nearly unthinkable at the time. Vandross's music, which often centered on themes of love and romance, resonated deeply with a broad audience, including a significant female fan base. In this context, coming out could have jeopardized not only his career, but also his standing within the community. As Garen Keith Gaynor of Geo observed, Luther was a symbol, and in the world of R&B, which was also deeply rooted in the African American church and the black experience at large, his coming out would have certainly sent shockwaves through the community. Vandross's visibility and influence as an R&B superstar meant that any declaration of his sexuality would have been a radical act, likely met with significant backlash. The concept of an openly gay black man, particularly one of Vandross's stature, was unprecedented. There was no historical precedent for him to feel secure in the knowledge that his talents would continue to be appreciated, despite the pervasive homophobia and the community's complex relationship with masculinity. This reality likely contributed to Vandross's decision to keep his sexuality private. The pressures of being a public figure in an industry that was not ready to embrace an openly gay black artist must have been immense. Although we will never know exactly what Vandross thought about the possibility of coming out, it is possible that he found some solace in the belief that his family would still support him, even if the public reaction was less certain. Of course, this wasn't Luther Vandross's only secret in his 54-year life. Another secret that came to light was his feud with R&B singer Anita Baker. Their differences, both in personality and approach to music, were stark, making their conflict as compelling as their music. Luther Vandross was a perfectionist. His attention to detail was legendary, not just in his music but in everything he did. Every note, every arrangement, and every performance had to meet his exacting standards. His approach to music was meticulous, and he was known to agonize over the smallest details to ensure that every aspect of his work was flawless. This perfectionism was one of the reasons for his immense success. It made him one of the most beloved and respected figures in the music industry. However, it also made him difficult to work with, especially for someone like Anita Baker, who approached music from a very different perspective. Anita Baker, in contrast, was all about heart and soul. Her voice was a conduit for deep emotion, capable of evoking feelings that listeners might not even know they had. Unlike Vandross, Baker wasn't as concerned with perfection. She didn't sweat the small stuff. Instead, she let her emotions guide her performances, allowing her voice to flow naturally and connect with her audience on a profound level. This emotional spontaneity was what made Baker's music so powerful and relatable, but it also meant that she didn't always see eye to eye with Vandross, whose need for control and precision could sometimes stifle the kind of free-flowing creativity that she thrived on. When the two teamed up for a tour, fans were ecstatic. The prospect of seeing two of the biggest names in R&B share a stage was tantalizing. Both Vandross and Baker were at the height of their powers, and the idea of them performing together promised something truly epic. However, the reality turned out to be far less harmonious. Instead of the seamless collaboration that fans had hoped for, the tour became a battleground for the two stars' conflicting approaches to music. The disagreement started almost immediately. Vandross and Baker fought over everything: what songs to sing, how to sing them, the order of the set list, and even the lighting and stage design. Vandross's insistence on perfection clashed with Baker's more relaxed, emotion-driven style. For Vandross, every detail mattered, and he wanted to control every aspect of the performances to ensure that they were flawless. Baker, on the other hand, felt constrained by Vandross's rigidity and wanted more freedom to express herself in the moment. The tension between the two stars was palpable, and it didn't take long for it to spill over into the public eye. The media, always eager for a juicy story, pounced on the rumors of conflict between Vandross and Baker, and the fans, who had been so excited about the tour, were now captivated by the drama. The pressure on both artists was immense, and it only heightened the tension between them. With each performance, the stakes seemed to get higher, and the feud deepened. Backstage, the atmosphere was often tense, with the crew caught in the middle of the two stars' disagreements. The constant fighting made it difficult to maintain a smooth schedule, and at times, it seemed like the tour might fall apart altogether. The conflict didn't just affect Vandross and Baker, it had a ripple effect on everyone involved, from the musicians and dancers to the roadies and technical staff. The fans, too, were affected, as they could sense the tension on stage, even if they didn't know the full extent of what was happening behind the scenes. Despite the drama, there were moments when Vandross and Baker managed to put their differences aside, and when they did, the results were nothing short of magical. Their combined talent was undeniable, and when they were able to channel their energies into the music rather than their conflict, their performances were breathtaking. Those who were lucky enough to witness these moments saw two of the greatest voices in R&B history come together to create something truly special. Even with the tension, the professionalism and sheer talent of Vandross and Baker shone through, reminding everyone why they were legends in the first place. In addition to Anita Baker, En Vogue is also said to be the name that suffered the conflict with Luther Vandross. In fact, their collaboration was a fascinating, if sometimes chaotic, meeting of different musical generations and sensibilities. En Vogue burst onto the scene in the late 1980s and early 1990s with a sound that was distinctly modern, characterized by tight harmonies, slick production, and a fashion-forward image that captured the zeitgeist of the era. They were a group that embodied the evolution of R&B, blending the genre with elements of hip-hop, pop, and new jack swing. In contrast, Luther Vandross was the epitome of old-school R&B, with a style deeply rooted in the soulful traditions of the 1970s and 1980s. His music was smooth, romantic, and meticulously crafted, appealing to a broad audience that spanned multiple generations. When Vandross and En Vogue teamed up for a tour, it was an ambitious endeavor that promised to bring together the best of both worlds. However, the collaboration quickly revealed the inherent tensions between their differing approaches to music and performance. Vandross, known for his precision and attention to detail, had a clear vision of how things should be done. He was a veteran of the music industry, and his experience gave him a certain authority. En Vogue, on the other hand, was a younger, more dynamic group with their own ideas and style. They were less inclined to adhere to the rigid structure that Vandross favored, preferring instead to inject a sense of spontaneity and modern flair into their performances. The tour was, in many ways, like mixing oil and water. The differences between Vandross and En Vogue were not just stylistic. They were generational. Vandross represented a more traditional, almost classical approach to R&B, where every note and movement was carefully planned and executed. En Vogue, while deeply respectful of the genre's roots, brought a freshness and energy that appealed to a younger audience. This clash of perspectives led to frequent disagreements, particularly over issues like the playlist and rehearsal schedules. Vandross was meticulous about his set list, often curating it with the intention of creating a specific emotional journey for the audience. He believed in the power of a carefully chosen sequence of songs to build a narrative and evoke a particular mood. En Vogue, however, had their own ideas about how to engage the audience, favoring a more upbeat, dynamic approach that sometimes conflicted with Vandross's vision. These differences often led to heated discussions, as both parties tried to assert their creative control over the performances. Rehearsals were another point of contention. Vandross, ever the perfectionist, insisted on extensive rehearsals to ensure that every aspect of the show was flawless. He expected a level of discipline and commitment that was not always in line with En Vogue's more flexible and less regimented approach. For Vandross, rehearsals were about refining the performance to its highest possible standard, while for En Vogue, they were also a time to experiment and let their creativity flow. This difference in philosophy created friction, as both sides struggled to find a middle ground. However, despite the conflicts and the undeniable tension behind the scenes, there were moments during the tour when everything clicked, and the magic of music transcended their differences. Vandross's smooth, velvety voice blended with En Vogue's vibrant harmonies to create performances that were nothing short of spectacular. These moments were a testament to the talent and professionalism of both Vandross and En Vogue. When they managed to synchronize their styles, the result was a musical experience that delighted audiences and showcased the best of both old-school and modern R&B. Another secret that we must mention is that while Luther Vandross was celebrated for his smooth voice and emotive ballads, he carried the heavy burden of loneliness, depression, and the pressures of living in the spotlight, all of which were compounded by the societal challenges of his time. Reportedly, Vandross grew up in a world where being gay was stigmatized, particularly within the African American community and the entertainment industry. For a black man in the public eye, the fear of rejection, both from fans and from the industry itself, was a significant concern. Vandross's sexuality was something he kept private, a secret that weighed heavily on him. He lived in an era when being openly gay could have meant the end of his career, a reality that forced him to suppress a vital part of who he was. This suppression took a toll on Vandross's mental health. The loneliness and isolation he felt as a result of having to hide his true self were profound. These feelings found their way into his music, where Vandross's vulnerability and pain resonated deeply with his listeners. His ballads, often tinged with themes of love, loss, and yearning, were more than just songs. They were a reflection of his own emotional landscape. Fans connected with the raw emotion in his voice, sensing that Vandross was singing not just for them, but from a place of personal truth. Songs like "A House Is Not a Home" and "Superstar" were more than just covers. They were reinterpretations that Vandross infused with his own sense of longing and despair. In these songs and many others, Vandross's voice conveyed a depth of feeling that could only come from someone who had truly experienced heartache. The emotional intensity of his performances made him a beloved figure, as listeners felt that he understood their own struggles with love and life. Yet Vandross's challenges extended beyond his internal battles with loneliness and depression. He also faced significant health issues, including struggles with his weight, diabetes, and high blood pressure. Throughout his career, Vandross's weight fluctuated dramatically, and the media often fixated on this aspect of his life. The scrutiny was relentless, with tabloids and gossip columns regularly commenting on his appearance. This public obsession with his weight only added to the stress and pressure he already felt, contributing to his ongoing battle with self-esteem. Vandross's weight issues were not just a matter of public perception, they also had serious health implications. His struggles with diabetes and high blood pressure were exacerbated by his fluctuating weight, creating a vicious cycle that was difficult to break. Despite these challenges, Vandross remained committed to his craft. He continued to perform and produce music, even as his health began to deteriorate. His dedication to his art was unwavering, and he often pushed through physical and emotional pain to deliver the powerful performances that his fans had come to expect. In 2003, Vandross suffered a severe stroke, which left him partially paralyzed and affected his ability to speak and sing. This was a devastating blow for an artist whose voice was his livelihood and his greatest gift. Despite this setback, Vandross demonstrated remarkable resilience. He worked tirelessly on his recovery, determined to return to the stage. His efforts paid off in 2004 when he released his final album, Dance with My Father, which became one of the most successful albums of his career. The title track, a deeply personal song about the loss of his father, won a Grammy Award for Song of the Year, cementing Vandross's legacy as one of the greatest vocalists of his time. Vandross's ability to continue creating music, even in the face of such overwhelming personal adversity, is a testament to his strength and professionalism. He never let his personal struggles interfere with his commitment to his fans or his love of music. Instead, he channeled his pain into his art, using it as a means of connecting with others and expressing the emotions he could not always voice in his personal life. Given Luther Vandross's dedication, public curiosity about his fortune is not surprising. Luther Vandross's financial success mirrored his achievements as a musician, with his net worth at the time of his death estimated at around $40 million, according to Celebrity Net Worth. This wealth was not only a testament to his enduring popularity and the lucrative nature of his music career, but also a reflection of his savvy investments, particularly in real estate. Throughout his life, Vandross owned several multi-million-dollar properties, each one a symbol of the success he had achieved through his music. These properties were not just homes, but representations of the luxurious lifestyle he had earned after years of hard work and dedication to his craft. His real estate portfolio, particularly in Manhattan, New York, where he owned multiple high-end condos, showcased his preference for elegant and sophisticated living spaces in one of the world's most desirable cities. In 1999, Vandross purchased a 7-room condominium in Manhattan for an undisclosed amount. This condo, located in one of the city's most prestigious neighborhoods, was a significant upgrade from another Manhattan condo he had previously owned and sold for $5.6 million. The new condo was a luxurious space that offered the privacy and comfort Vandross desired, a retreat from the pressures of his public life. However, by 2003, just a few years before his death, Vandross decided to sell this property, fetching $4.425 million for it. This sale was part of a broader pattern of Vandross liquidating some of his real estate holdings, a decision that might have been influenced by his declining health and the need to simplify his life as he faced mounting personal challenges. In addition to his Manhattan properties, Vandross owned another condo in the city, which he sold in 2000 for around $400,000. While this property was smaller and less expensive than his other holdings, it still contributed to his substantial real estate portfolio. Vandross's investments in Manhattan real estate were reflective of his love for the city, a place that was not only central to his career, but also to his identity as an artist who thrived in the vibrant, culturally rich environment of New York. Beyond the city, Vandross also owned several properties in Connecticut, including a sprawling 23,000-square-foot estate. This estate was a significant part of Vandross's life, offering a serene and private escape from the public eye. The estate was reportedly equipped with a range of luxurious amenities, befitting a star of Vandross's stature. Among the rumors surrounding this property was the existence of an indoor basketball court, a feature that would typically be a dream for many. However, in a quirky twist that speaks to Vandross's unique personality, it was said that he repurposed the basketball court as a gigantic walk-in closet. This anecdote, whether entirely true or not, highlights Vandross's love for fashion and his desire for space to house his extensive wardrobe, which was an important aspect of his public image as a stylish and sophisticated performer. Vandross's Connecticut estate, like his Manhattan properties, was more than just a home. It was a reflection of his success and his desire for spaces that provided both luxury and comfort. The estate offered him a retreat from the relentless pace of his career and the pressures of fame, allowing him to enjoy the fruits of his labor in a peaceful and secluded environment. The decision to sell some of these properties in the years leading up to his death may have been influenced by a variety of factors. Vandross's health was in decline after his 2003 stroke, and managing multiple large properties might have become increasingly difficult. Additionally, as he focused on his recovery and dealt with the limitations imposed by his health, simplifying his life by reducing the number of properties he owned could have been a practical choice. Despite the sales of these properties, Vandross's real estate investments contributed significantly to his overall wealth. His ability to buy and sell high-end properties in one of the most competitive real estate markets in the world demonstrated his financial acumen and his understanding of the value of real estate as an investment. Vandross's wealth, much of which was tied up in his properties, was a reflection of a life lived in pursuit of excellence, not just in music, but in every aspect of his life. What do you think about Luther Vandross's secrets? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.